I am a business development manager at Arrow, and I manage our global partnership with Indiegogo. So you're going to get a little bit of what is Indiegogo, what are some things around raising money on the platform, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we're partnering with them, ideally to help entrepreneurs and startups, like a lot of you in the room, be successful. The best part, I think, about this breakfast is when I heard you guys go around, everybody had something to bring to the table. Everybody wants to help another one. This is quite a community, which is really kind of fun to be a part of, and this is what we built this program to try and support and advance. So hopefully you guys can hear me. I can start shouting if my mic really gets a little too sporadic, but I'm going to jump right in if you're okay with that. You're good with starting. Awesome. Okay. I think somebody said this, I think my Eagles fan said this, startups are hard. Startups are so hard. Oh my goodness, it's ridiculous. For every single piece of technology that you see now, there are countless others that never make it. And it's really something that Arrow has decided deep down at its core that it's very important that we start working with these guys early. We start helping startups as soon as they have this idea that they're coming to market. So we have, oh, mine's going to move on me. Whoa. We have created this program with Indiegogo that pulls all of the resources. So Nancy talked about how she's in manufacturing, Shreg works in sales, Matthew works in sales, and because of those things, we try to pull it all together into one place for entrepreneurs to get access to some of those resources. Because it's hard to know where to start. It's hard to know where to go. And especially with a big company like Arrow, that is why this partnership makes sense for us. This hardware, we call it the Arrow Certification Program. So I know there was some talk about certification over here. Different. This is our own program that we do, that we certify designs. And we look at those designs for their feasibility in the market. So we look at, will they actually be able to manufacture this? Is it denying the laws of physics? I gotta tell you, there's a lot of them out there. We gotta make sure they get some guidance, and so that's what the program is intended to do. So I'm gonna show you a quick video. Hopefully you can hear it. If not, I'll mime it.
Touchpoints are wearable devices that alleviate stress in as few as 30 seconds.
Dyno Equipment is a company that specializes in creating camera accessories for small camera users.
This is GarageIt. It's an open source garage door controller.
Tursa Steam is a wall-mounted 10-minute clothing care system.
Every time an entrepreneur comes to me and asks for advice as a startup, how can I be successful? I always recommend crowdfund, and not only that, have fun with Indiegogo.
We love Indiegogo because they seem really focused on helping smaller companies like us, especially within hardware, because of their partnership with Arrow.
We were able to go from 2 college kids with an idea to now having a company that's ready to ship.
The Arrow certification program is one of the main reasons we actually chose Indiegogo, and we got to work with them right away.
The process is really painless.
It doesn't require a lot of time, and there's nothing but the upside.
They're able to step in, help you with any manufacturing issues you may have, engineering questions, and really take that product from just a successfully funded campaign to an actual delivered product.
We still had an Arduino programming device in our prototype, and they helped us not only find the permanent solution, but also helped us find a really cost-effective one that we had no idea was on the market until we worked with Arrow.
Arrow's been phenomenal every step of the way. They work hand in hand with our engineering team, and anytime we have issues, they're on the phone just right away working things out.
And also there are discounts for the components, and there's a flash fund, and other benefits there too.
Arrow gives products and companies that they truly believe in the opportunity to use flash funding to help grow their company. Touchpoints was one of just a handful of companies that was given this prestigious honor, and we are absolutely grateful for that opportunity.
The Arrow's badge of certification really gives the buyer a lot of confidence in the product because you have a team of highly skilled engineers from a multi-billion-dollar company that are assessing your designs and giving it proof and validity. People really look for the Arrow certified technology when they're looking at campaigns because seeing that Arrow certified technology badge really gives the backer a lot of confidence in the product.
The unique relationship between Indiegogo and Arrow really helps you to feel very well-rounded when you're taking a product and going it to market.
That's my sales plug. So good. They can say it better than me. Questions? So these are a few of the companies that we've worked with, and for those of you who, I got one slide on who Arrow is, and then we'll jump right into Indiegogo because I think you guys get it. So Arrow is a $26 billion company specializing in a lot of technology solutions. Everything that you guys are talking about, I think there's a lot of pieces where it can be integrated. We work a lot in the IoT space. We do a lot with trying to get people off the ground. And you maybe have known us traditionally as just this giant electronics distributor. And we are much more than that. As Trey said, he talked about how we like to accelerate companies. We like to provide full solutions to make sure that people are successful. I feel like this mic is more distracting than helpful, but I'll just keep shouting.
But you're welcome to stop using it.
Should I
Your
stop
voice
using it?
projects.
Who votes stop?
Go for it.
Guys in
All
the
right,
front.
guys in the front. I like it, because then you know that I just need to be loud. That's all right. I can be very demonstrative. So as you know, so this is a little tiny snapshot, but it's a big company. But I think that that's partially why this program makes so much sense for us, because like I said earlier, it's easier to kind of connect in with us, right? You know, through this program, through this Arrow certification program. So. You're saying, but what is Indiegogo, right? Indiegogo itself, it used to be known that they used to just call themselves a crowdfunding platform. And really, they started realizing that when people were raising money, they'd get all this money on the platform and they'd kind of get to that moment where it was like, ah, crap, I just made $1 million on Indiegogo, now I have to actually make my product. And so Indiegogo worked very hard to find ways to empower them to actually get their idea off the ground. And by partnering with people like us at Arrow Electronics, that has been kind of their mission behind it. So there's a few things you should know about Indiegogo. If you've never ran a campaign on Indiegogo and you're wondering what makes Indiegogo unique and why did Arrow pick Indiegogo, I'm going to tell you a few reasons. One that you should just know off the gate. Indiegogo offers two different types of funding. So you can either do something called fixed funding, which is the traditional route of crowdfunding. That's how Kickstarter works. You set a goal, and if you do not hit that goal, you give all the money back. That's fixed funding. If you want to run through Indiegogo, they offer something called flex funding, which means that if you set a goal and you say, I want to raise $50,000, and you raise $40,000, you can keep it. So that's very unique to the Indiegogo platform. It also tends to be a little bit more friendly towards the entrepreneur for that reason. Because it's hard. It's hard to know exactly where to set your goal. It's hard to get your name out there immediately. But sometimes even $10,000 on a $50,000 goal will help you get this going. It's not going to obviously make everything perfect, but they let you keep the money that you raise. It is much more global. So it is in over 223 countries, and you can raise in lots of different currencies. So one thing that we work a lot with a lot of European countries, and I was talking to some of these guys yesterday, and I was saying we worked with a company in Denmark, and Denmark is not actually on the euro, surprisingly. So if you go to Denmark, don't use euros. They have the Denmark crowns, and if you wanted to raise money on Kickstarter, you have to have an account in that currency. On Indiegogo, they let you pick which currency you want to raise in. So this gentleman had wanted to raise in euros because he knew it would have a broader market and it would look a little bit more legitimate. So on Indiegogo, you have the flexibility to do that. So it's a little bit freer. Yeah, they've got great customer service, etc. All right, so what does success in crowdfunding look like? A lot of people think of it as just a place to get money, and it is. It's absolutely a place to get money, but you have to make sure that you're promoting it. We're going to talk a little bit about how to promote it a little bit more, some best practices around that. But one thing that you should think about with Indiegogo is not just about how much you can raise on their platform, but you should think about testing your market for the product. So we've seen even a lot of big companies use Indiegogo under a different brand to try and just test out if the market's interested. An example would be GE. Even GE has used Indiegogo's platform under another name to see if, I think at the time they were testing if crushed ice was going to be something, a crushed ice maker was something that would resonate in the market. And obviously, I love crushed ice, so it must have worked. So this is one of the ways that you would want to use Indiegogo. So you can use it to start building a community if you want people to start testing your product, give you real-time feedback. It's not always just about the money, even though, of course, we all love the money. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up. So what makes a successful campaign? So I kind of stole these slides from Indiegogo directly, so that's why there's going to be a lot of pink, guys. If you hate pink, I'm really sorry. There's going to be a lot more to come. So there's four main things that help with making a successful campaign. We're going to kind of talk through each of them a little bit. The first one is an attainable goal, which we talked about. This is one of the biggest mistakes that I see with campaigners and entrepreneurs, that they think if they set a higher goal, that means they will make more money. That is not necessarily true. A higher goal does not mean that you'll make more money. What is more likely to succeed, if you looked at these two campaigns, both of them raised $20,000. This one raised $20,000 on a $50,000 goal. This one raised $20,000 on a $150,000 goal. If you pulled up these two campaigns and you looked at them, one of them looks more successful, right? You would be much more likely to contribute to this one because of the chance that it has to actually achieve that target than something like this that looks like only 13% of their goal has been raised. So think about that when you're trying to put a goal or put a target around how much you want to raise. On Indiegogo, you guys are still working with consumers, you're still working with backers, and what it looks like matters. So on it, they really do push not to make your goal too outrageous. Even if you want to raise $3 million, put it at something that's attainable or something that's reasonable. The 30% of your goal should be met within the first 48 hours, which is aggressive if you think about that. If you had your entire email list and you're converting on your email list, if you're supposed to hit 30% of your goal, think about it in that regards. How many of that email list is actually going to buy within the first 2 days without you having to call and say, please, come on, Mom, buy 5.
So what happens if you don't raise that 30%? You just pull it out?
You can keep going. You can leave your campaign on Indiegogo. One thing about them is you can run a 30-day campaign, 45 days, 60-day. After you're done on Indiegogo, you can convert your campaign to something called in demand if you hit your goal. So this is a little bit different than Kickstarter. Kickstarter, if you run your campaign, don't raise your money, money goes back. If you raise your money, still your campaign comes down. Indiegogo lets you use their platform indefinitely as an e-commerce platform. So if you don't want to have to go through and set up your own e-commerce platform to continue to distribute this, you can leave it on Indiegogo. They will still just take 5% of everything that you make on their platform, but that's pretty standard across the crowdfunding. Both of them are about the same. Kickstarter's the same as Indiegogo in terms of fees. So you can leave it, but this is what they would recommend. Their most successful campaigns are hitting 30% after the first 48 hours. All right, a compelling pitch, like I'm trying right now. I'm really working on my compelling pitch for you. Good. Video and story. All right, so campaigns that launch with a pitch video, and almost to this point, Indiegogo doesn't really like you to launch if you don't have a video. So you need to invest in this video. They are raising 115% more than campaigns that don't, which makes sense. Because as you know, you go to these campaign pages to look at these projects and you'll maybe watch the video. And you probably only watch maybe the first 30 seconds, the first minute of that video. So it has to be pretty compelling. It has to catch you at the beginning. We have a few best practices. So you guys are doing pretty good here. I saw you guys are good at your 30-second ones, like, hey, this is what I got a good elevator speech. This is basically what you want to put into your video. So you plan what do you want stacked in the front? If somebody only watches 30 seconds of your video, what do you want to make sure they know about your product from the get-go? Start with your brand. Your brand is king. You want them to know your brand. You want them to see it. You want them to think about it. And then just move right into that introduction about your product. Just make sure that they understand exactly what you're trying to articulate. And I know that a lot of this is really heavy towards those of you who have startups to get it going, but it's always good to kind of keep in mind as you're working with startups or as you're working with people who want to use this platform, that there's a lot into what that story is going to look like. I'm going to jump ahead, use charts, use images, use puppies, use kids, use cats, whatever you got to do. And then provide use cases for how this product actually can help you. You have to kind of articulate to them why they need this. You have to sell them very hard, which I have a feeling there's some pretty good salesmen in here. All right, strategic perks. This is a question I get all the time. How do I structure the actual perks? So on Indiegogo, if there was a campaign that I really liked, you guys saw a few of those. So if I was talking to the lady from Touchpoints and I wanted the Touchpoints, usually the perk is the product. It's generally you're pre-buying. Now, I mean, Indiegogo would not appreciate that I said that because it's really you're supporting their first run. You're not necessarily putting in a pre-order. I'm get in trouble about that. But generally, what you want to do is think about, especially for technology campaigns, the best price range that we see perform well on the platform is somewhere between $99 to $199. Now, that does not mean that if you have a campaign and it really is going to cost you $3.99 for the first one, that you shouldn't post that. It just means you need to take that into account when you're thinking about your goals and how much you're expecting to raise on this platform. This is one way to raise money. This is not the only way to raise money. And maybe you want to use your Indiegogo campaign more for that market validation, that building the community, getting real-time feedback. Talk about early bird pricing perks. So this is actually one way that people do this to try to get to that 30%, is they offer a special deal for the people who get into your campaign first. So they say, I have 20 that I'm going to give away, and it normally costs me $3.99, but you get it at a special deal for $1.99. And so they do something called this early bird perk pricing, and they think maybe 20% of your sales through that platform should be in this space. So if you're thinking about how much could you do at that level, now granted, not everybody can do early bird pricing, and that's totally fine, but it is something to keep in mind that you can kind of play with the platform. You can decide how much you want something to go for, if you want to offer certain incentives, and ideally keep it for a limited time. Don't offer your early bird perk forever, because then it's not an early bird perk at all. And then this is just rule of sales. End your price with an odd number. I don't know why. I don't know why that is a thing, but if you said it's $100, they're less likely to buy than if you say it's $99. And I don't feel like that dollar is going to make that much difference, guys. I think it's going to be okay. All right, proactive promotion. So this is the last thing around the putting together your campaign. And there's a lot of best practices behind this, and I'm happy to talk with anybody. But what you should be planning. So you need to start thinking about where are you going to be promoting this campaign. What lists do you have? What network do you have? What family do you have? What friends do you have? And then what kind of content do you want to use? How are you going to do this? Are you using social media? Are you using email blasts? Are you doing door hangers? I don't recommend it, but it's your choice. What method are you going to be using? So email brings in 20% more funding onto the platform than any other source. Email is king in this space. Email tends to convert somewhere around 4%. That's what they tend to see in terms of your campaign. So if you've got a list of 10,000 people, if you think about 4% of that list actually converting, that's what you're kind of looking at for your platform. That doesn't sound like a big number, so you're going to need other things. But generally, you get more contributions directly from that. 22% of all campaign funds generally are coming from social media. So this means that you're posting it on Facebook, you're posting it on Twitter. LinkedIn is okay. If you've got a good community on LinkedIn, that probably isn't bad, but when you're looking to try and get it out there to the consumer, you're going to be wanting to run paid ads or put things up, boost your posts on Facebook. It costs like $5 to boost like your first post. You can do as much or as little as you want on the social media platforms. And over 50% of all traffic on Indiegogo comes from social media sites. So people are clicking through just because they see something awesome in that little blurb that you put in. You've come up with an awesome tagline, and they're clicking on it because it says something like, "Weeding sucks." And that is one of the things, this guy, I brought props. This is a solar weeding robot that we've worked with. This guy's called Turtle. And literally, I even brought his cards, and the card says, "Weeding sucks." And it says, "Make a robot do it." So this guy, he can live in your garden. He's created by some of the guys who created the Roomba that goes around and vacuums your floor. That's kind of what they wanted to do with this, but they didn't want you to have to charge it all the time. That's why they wanted to make sure it was solar powered, and it literally can go through and kill out any of the weeds in your garden. So I mean, you guys might need this one. But this is a good example. Yeah, I'm promoting this now. This is a good example of a perk that they couldn't get it in that $1.99 price range because it was just going to cost too much. They couldn't get it down to there. And even in their early bird pricing, I think they had this thing running for $3.99. And it actually still did very well on the platform. So it's not a hard and fast rule. These are just guidelines. They're just best practices that we've seen. And truthfully, this guy, Turtle, T-E-R-T-I-L, like turtle, clever. As long as you've kind of got a good story and you've got it out there, these guys were even featured on CNBC. So it's pretty exciting. And lastly, if you're thinking about promoting, this is something that can make or break a crowdfunding campaign is your updates on the platform. Now, I was talking to somebody yesterday who said they were really overzealous and they wanted to do a video update every week. And so they said, I'm going to tell my backers every week what's going on via my face. I want them to see my face. I want them to know me. And I got to tell you, sometimes you're waiting 2 weeks and you have the same update. Doesn't mean you shouldn't communicate, but you should think about what do you want to include in each of these updates. But the backers are going to want to hear from you. They're going to want to hear that you're still working on it because a lot of times, I would say I've seen maybe a dozen projects that have come through our program that have actually hit their delivery date. Even people who thought they were going to get it done in 10 months, 12 months, sometimes it gets delayed, and everybody in here is nodding because we all understand about delays and what can happen. So you need to make sure that your backers understand what's going on. Generally, I'm going to say in a very generic term, they're fairly forgiving if you can tell them what's happening. Hey, our plastics fell through. Hey, I don't want this to melt in your car, or whatever it is. They generally will receive that, but if they don't hear from you, then that's when you start getting all the negative comments. And once you start seeing negative comments, you have to respond. You have to reply to those, because if you leave them, it snowballs. So if it's like, this guy's not talking to us, and then somebody comes back up and says, yeah, this guy's not talking to us, and then it's this massive thing, and next thing someone's throwing out the word fraud and scam, and you're like, okay, I should have responded when I saw it. So if you are going to run an Indiegogo campaign, you need to think about monitoring your campaign page, monitor your comments, and make sure you're putting up updates on a pretty regular basis so they feel like they're connected to what's going on with your product. People like to think they know, that have the inside track, the inside scoop. And ask for feedback. They love to do that. Hey, what color do you think this should be? I was thinking it would be black. Do you guys have opinions? And everyone's going to have an opinion. You don't have to listen, but at least you're asking for feedback. So, your choice. Campaigns that post regular updates are raising 286% more money on the platform, which makes sense because generally, if I look at a campaign, I'm going to go look at the most recent update. How are they doing? I watch that little 30-second of the video. That brand sounds great. I'm really interested in it. Then I'll go and look at what their updates are, how are they doing, and then I'm going to look and see if there are comments and if they've been responding to comments, which makes sense. And that would give me a little bit more credibility, or give me a little bit more trust, knowing that this campaign's actually going to deliver to their promise, or deliver at least close to when they said that they would. Questions so far? Am I losing anybody? I know it's warm. Sorry. Okay. One thing that Indiegogo, I think, really started investing quite a bit in. So we've only partnered with them about a year and a half, almost 2 years. But what they did is they wanted to find partners in each of these spaces to actually help entrepreneurs. So where we kind of fall is a lot of this early stage. We don't do a lot with the retail piece, but I told you you can decide where that's going to go. You can use their platform as their e-commerce platform. But when we're talking about where you actually build your product, or how do you develop it, or how do you get it from that concept to something that actually is feasible and gets into their hands, that is why they partnered with us. And you're saying, how many people, Rachel, are actually opted into your program? Well, thank you for this question. Over 8,300 entrepreneurs have actually opted into our Aero certification program in the last year and a half, which is crazy. We did not realize how many people are looking for this kind of help. And I think we thought that we'd get a handful of people that were really going to get it into production or really get it going. And we've seen tremendous response from the startup community around this program, which has been fun. It's a fun job for me. I get to read all of these new projects. And but then you get some that are really kind of stand out. So I'm going to tell you about Squared Up. Hopefully my thing doesn't go on me. So Squared Up, this is a golf alignment tool. I don't know if we have a lot of golfers in the room. I'm an okay golfer.
We're more into shotguns.
Shotguns. we can build this
Shotguns golf.
Good, okay, good. So you won't be upset that my golf swing always goes the wrong direction. But this gentleman, he's out of Georgia. He was ex-military, and he had this idea to create just a tool. It's a really simple tool that kind of has some lasers and can help you line up your shots. So you put it on the ground, and you line up your feet, and you line up your club, and then as long as you keep it in a straight line, hopefully your ball goes where it's supposed to go. This gentleman came and visited us in Denver to start talking about his product. He had a couple of ideas around it. I think he had family in the area, which is why I think it showed up initially. This guy, we were able to. He had one prototype that he built. He had one PCB. He had kind of sort of linked it up, but it was kind of a lot of people come to us with just an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi or something like that. He had started it kind of using some of those basic models, but he had this one prototype, and he needed to get at least 5 made to start building other investors. So he wanted to take this to VC firms. He wanted to take this around, and he felt like the market in Asia was going to be massive, but he had to have some that actually worked. So he came and he sat down with us, we talked through him, and this is kind of tricky because the way he did his PCB initially is like a cross, which is kind of custom. You're going to have to print something really unique for them, and we had the opportunity to work with Randy, actually get him his PCBAs, actually ship it to him directly, and we were able to turn it around in about 2 weeks from quote to actually delivery of those PCBAs, which was pretty exciting. Randy right now is working with us on a contract to start mass producing this. He found a big investor out of New Zealand, Australia, and so this investor said, yeah, I need this, everybody needs to play golf apparently, and gave him a lot of money to start getting this off the ground. And so when Nancy's talking about how she works in the manufacturing side of this, she had to jump in, and we were all kind of coordinating how we're going to get these guys off the ground into production. But thankfully he was able to find the funds and make it work. So you're going to see this graphic, and I'm just very proud of it because I worked really hard on the Skiffy guys. But nonetheless, so at any stage in a startup's life cycle, so we've talked a lot about this early piece, and when people are at concept trying to get it off the ground, but people oftentimes, the prototyping piece is kind of fun. That's when it's fun. You have the idea and you build that first prototype and it works. And you get it to work just for you, and that's the fun part. It's like now how do I actually really lift this off the ground? And that's generally where we see a lot of people needing our support. So getting it from that first prototype into your next round of prototypes, through your testing, through all of that phase, and then actually being able to launch it into production, then everybody has a second idea. You're like, you know what, this would be even cooler if. So you're going to iterate on this product, and that's one of the things that Arrow can do for a lot of our campaigners. And then from there, when we're actually done, when you're done with your product or there's breaks or whatever, Arrow is actually the largest value recovery organization in the world. So this means that when it breaks, it's all of its useful life, we can pull it back, pull out anything that could be melted down or resold and recycle it in more of a green way. So Arrow leads in this space around end of life. So no matter what's happening, there's no reason why Arrow couldn't help you. I feel like everybody here, Arrow can help you. From the program perspective, the program that I'm talking about, it's completely free. We're not asking people to buy in. I am only successful if they are successful. So I don't make money right out the gate. There are things that they want us to build their prototypes, awesome. Then we can work on that. But it doesn't mean that they have to opt in for a fee to use our engineers or to start using some of our tools. It's absolutely free, and we're finding that people in the program who actually earn certification, which we'll talk about in a second, are raising 84% more money on the platform, and they're 4.5 times more likely to hit their goal. Now this kind of makes sense, yeah.
Quick question. So, to get started, do we have to go through Indigo or?
You can come straight to us. You don't have to go through Indiegogo. In fact, if you're not quite ready to launch a campaign, but you just want to start working with Arrow and you want to start building it, and sometimes it makes more sense to actually have a prototype before you launch it on the site. You don't have to. Indiegogo lets you start it at any point. So if you wanted to raise money at the concept phase, you can. Kickstarter doesn't let you do that. So Indiegogo is a little bit more entrepreneur friendly, where Kickstarter tends to be more backer friendly. So those are kind of the, if you get it just in concept, Indiegogo is a little bit more flexible for the startups, and Kickstarter tends to be a little bit more strict around trying to help the backers. But yeah, so you can start with us. And it kind of makes sense why we're starting to see this trend where they're raising more money and they're more likely to hit their goals, because at one point on Indiegogo, when they didn't have partners and it was open to concept and all of these things, and it still is, but when they didn't have any partners, it was really hard for the backers to know whether they were ever going to get that product, or if it was even a feasible product. I know we kind of laugh about define the laws of physics, but that people were still buying into these things and they didn't have anything that gave it any kind of credibility. So building this badging system and the certification program with Indiegogo has resonated pretty well with the backer community from that perspective.
So, I mean, I started a company back in 2002, 2004. I can vouch for Arrow FAEs, they rock. Thank you very much. One thing I don't see over here, of course, this is very early stage. You're still thinking hardware and making it work reliably with manufacturing and stuff. But if you look at the IoT trends in general, majority of, one thing piece that is missing is what are they going to do with the data? And I'm pretty sure
I'm happy to help.
And there's a lot of training associated with that as well, because not a whole lot of people can deal with 100 million rows of data, and it's very easy to get that if you're sending thousands of pieces of equipment.
Sure.
It's not really during the early stages, it's more towards the later on stages.
Yes.
Does Arrow have any plans of giving certifications just for training? How to deal with this IoT data? How do you maybe partner with Microsoft and provide training for that very intense training for how do you deal with data, what kind of technology should you use?
No, it's a fair question. So each startup has their individual needs. So you're going to have some, like my golf alignment guy. Right now, he wants to get it IoT connected, but he doesn't have it yet. So what he needs is the prototypes created. Then you have people who come who say, yeah, I have all this data. So I have another case study coming up, but I'll jump ahead anyway. It's a water quality monitor. And basically, so it's called WaterBot, and what they do is they really just collect, and this is all just data. Eventually, they're just going to be a data company. It'll be the device somewhere, but it's just tracking all of this data. And one, it's storage, one, it's security, and what you're actually going to do with this data. And so we have a lot of partners with Arrow that actually help us. So IBM is a big promoter of this project, so we've actually worked pretty hard to get those guys set up, and they're using kind of the Bluemix platform at the moment. But this is absolutely an ongoing thing for our campaigners, because if that's something that they're going to need, we have to talk to them early. So we have engineers that specialize in software and cloud, we have engineers that specialize in electronics, and then we have engineers that have kind of mechanical backgrounds. The majority of my engineers are in Denver, but I have 2 in Budapest and I have 1 in Hong Kong, so we've got kind of a global presence, and that kind of follows the trends for where we're seeing the startups opt in most in North America. But that is absolutely a fair question, and it's not something that, Arrow doesn't have its own necessarily storage device, but we use all of our partners because you have to. And sometimes Microsoft might be the best solution, sometimes IBM might be the best solution, sometimes it's someone else that's not here. Nonetheless, yeah, I don't know who else. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so that's one of the things, especially as they're getting into production. What are they going to do with this data? How do they keep it secure? What do they want it to tell them? What do they want to use it to further analyze? I think you guys learned about AI last month, and so what do you do with that data that actually gives you the intelligence that you need to take your business off the ground? So, fair question.
So how does Arrow make money off of this? From the hardware that you're selling?
I only make money when I am selling hardware or cloud solutions. So I don't make a lot of money initially because these guys are very early in this space. And this program's only a year and a half old, so as soon as I master how we're really going to make money on this, I'm going to do real well, guys. I'll finally start making money one day. So this is true, really, genuinely. Unless people buy products from us, that's the only way we make money. But all of this engineering support we provide as part of the program, as part of the free portion of the program. So when it comes to, if you want to talk through your BOM review, you want to do one-on-one consultations with one of those guys, if you need electrical, you need mechanical. It's interesting, because a lot of startups have, you either have some that are really tech savvy and really get it, but don't understand all of the business aspect of it. How are they really going to sell it? And then you have some that are super business savvy, awesome salesmen, but they haven't really thought about everything that actually needs to go into that product. And so it's interesting as you're working with these campaigners to try and figure out where they're going to need your support, and whether it is through that one-on-one consultation or if it's through giving them custom design reviews, talking about their architecture. Hey, have you thought about power supply? Have you thought about your interconnect? Why is this not Bluetooth? What are you trying to do with the networks? All of those things are part of the advantage or the benefits that we're trying to bring to these entrepreneurs to make them think holistically about what they're building and actually get it into production. And then ideally, once they are there, to your question, then we can get them volume pricing, we can manage their supply chain, we can get it into manufacturing, we can deal with logistics and actually shipping to where they want it to go. These are all things that Arrow provides, but we can't even talk about this part where I make money until people figure out how they're going to make their product, if that makes sense. Good question. Anything else so far? Yes?
Do you do anything for like IP consultation? Like you're going to run into these patent issues?
It's a fair question. So we as Arrow don't advise on how it's going to be, but we can connect you with other partners who can. So pretty much anything you ask us, I'm always going to say yes. So if you say, hey, can I get some help with IP? Of course, yes. Can I personally tell you how to do it? No. I'm going to need to pull in experts, but this is good. This is how Arrow believes it should be. We don't have to do everything ourselves. We can pull in the right people to get it done and make sure that it's done well. The excellent part for startups is that you just have to come to one place. So you say, Arrow, here are all the things that I need, and Arrow says, sure, I'll take care of it. You don't worry about it. I'll make sure that you get all of these things taken care of and connect you with the right stuff, and you don't have to go searching for it somewhere else. We like to be a place that is simple and easier to work with and connects you where you're supposed to go. Oh, these slides. Slides are jumping on me. I'm sorry. This is simple, how it works. It's a form online. It's very simple to fill out. Arrow.com/Indiegogo. If you go to the Arrow.com site, it's the only part that's pink. That's not true. Raspberry Pis are up there. So. Okay, and then immediately we start giving you benefits. So as soon as you opt into the program, we start giving you discounts that you can use on the website and access to some of our online design tools. Sorry. And then from there, then we look at every single submission, every one of those 8,300 submissions we go through. And there's a member on my team that is looking for tech and looking for and reaches out to each person to say, what do you need? What's going on? What can we help you with? And then we'll connect them with the right engineer. In order to get certified, you have to actually talk to an Aero engineer. I know. There's some shock about this, but we want to make sure you're legitimate and we want to look at your design. So it will get scheduled with an engineer regarding kind of what you're looking for, and really it's generally things around tech. If things come through the program that don't have any tech, we can't do much to push it through the certification program. Sometimes that hurts people's feelings, but if it's just a magnet, you can't do a lot for it. Maybe you can get it there at some point. Maybe there'll be electronics. So we're going to look through that. We're going to make sure we're going to verify whether it has tech, put it in front of an engineer, and then in order to get certified, you have to present some design documents. So you have to show that you have a bill of materials, and it has to be kind of a complete bill of materials. Sometimes people just throw something on there like Arduino, and you're like, thank you for the start, but now what else goes with this? So we're looking for your full E-BOM, and then obviously if you've worked through your mechanical BOM and all your enclosures, that's great, but we are definitely looking specifically at your electronics to make sure that they're feasible. But the best part about this is we're looking to find things that you maybe didn't see. So maybe you have a part on there that has a super long lead time and you haven't thought about that. Like that part's going to take you 48 weeks to get. Just make sure you know this, and if that's not what you were looking at, maybe we should look at something different. Or that part's going end of life. You just put something on there that you're not going to be able to get that in 2 years, so you should probably think about what you're going to do. And then a lot of times people come to us and say, hey, this is the power output or inputs that I need, this is what I'm looking for, but I don't know what part that's going to be, and that's where the engineers can help you find the best one. And ideally, at the best cost, and ideally at the best availability, we'll do our very best for you, absolutely. All right. Now that it's jumping you ahead to this one, flash funding. Oh yeah, got those questions. Yes.
So would you be, would you be interested if the idea was all software and had no hardware?
If it has some sort of cloud connectivity, then yes. But we talked through a lot of websites too sometimes that aren't really always going to use cloud or apps. But that's not. We're happy to work through it. What we look for in that case, if it's just a software piece, is a working demo. So your design documentation and a working demo of what that's going to do, and then that's how you could achieve certification from the software side.
So, a couple of topics: idea protection, and then also back office support for the startup themselves. I mean, are you helping them with like an NDA at least? So when they talk to your engineers, they're under NDA, or what's the amount of like, I've got a great idea, I don't want everybody to know about it, but I need your help.
That's fair.
And then the second piece is, now I've started a business. How am I communicating? How am I complying with the law relative to the money I just, received, and managing my books and all the financial stuff that other people forget about too? Even financial people forget about that stuff sometimes. So.
It's true. It's true. Yes, be careful.
She doesn't, but
no. I'm
it's a team question.
Yeah, this is good. You're together. This is how I like it. Team questions work. So first question, yes. Anybody who opts into the program, we have an NDA. Some people don't necessarily want to and don't see that the value as much. We try to push it as much as we can to make sure that they do, just to protect them and us.
Well, patents could be a secret.
Patents could be a secret.
I mean, a valuable thing in the
Exactly. Now, a bill of materials, if they're sharing a bill of materials with us, it's really hard to replicate someone's secret sauce just off of a bill of materials. It's kind of like a recipe. If you just throw everything in there and be like, but I don't know how to put this together exactly unless you tell me how. So it's not as, some people don't see it as critical when they're just working through the bill of materials, but they are talking about their design. So absolutely we have the NDAs, and that covers the whole company. So our 18,000 employees are all subject to that NDA and what we put in there. To your second question about back office and finances, it's a very good question. From the back office standpoint of not having to do all of the research that a buyer would sometimes have to go do and find all these different places, from more of a product standpoint, it's a no-brainer with Aero. From a finance standpoint, we don't generally manage their books or help them think about, we might tell them to think about it.
Do they provide some form of hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, rules of just being a business? Or?
They do from the standpoint of when you're going to get these funds, how they'll be dispersed, think about how you're going to manage them, and making sure that you deliver to your perks. So they will ask you those questions around it, but we tend to not insert ourselves into the financials of these organizations, particularly to make sure that we are focused genuinely on the design of the product. But it's a fair question, and Indiegogo has some services around that, particularly for entrepreneurs to think about. How are you going to deliver this? What money needs to be set aside? How much should you be spending on your marketing? What makes sense from that perspective? How should you price your perk, even though they'll never tell you exactly how much you should do it because it's your choice. But they have a little bit of that, more than just our Arrow partnership. Yeah.
Do you have any VC funds in your partner network? Are there VC schools that you guide these companies, or is it up to the company themselves?
There are some, and a lot of it's at the local level. So because this program is pretty global, we don't have one specific partner that's in the program that is this. What we have is this one that my slide kept jumping, around flash funding that Arrow does. So in that video that you guys watched and maybe heard or you didn't hear, but you saw pretty pictures, what she was talking about winning flash funding through Arrow, and that is not VC money. That is legitimate, just cash that we give to those campaigns. We gave away over $1 million last year to campaigns that were certified. So you have to get certified, you have to be in the approved geographies, including like North America. I got Canada, but not Quebec, because there's some funny rules in Quebec.
Different language.
Yes, it's a tough one. And then you have Europe, some select countries in Europe that we also can do flash funding in. And that is based on, we send it out to all of Arrow employees, all Indiegogo employees, and we ask them to vote on their favorite. And that's how we narrow it down. They have to have a live campaign up on the site, but that's a third thing. And then we take those 5 and we look for the most innovative, the biggest impact to people's lives, and the most marketable. And so from that's usually how we choose our winners. And that is legitimately, there's no strings attached. I'm not going to make you take that money and have to spend it at Arrow. If I give you $100,000, I'm hoping you'll give me some of it back. But I'm okay if you take it and you need it for other things. You need it to build out your marketing plan, or you need to hire somebody, or whatever that is. That money is the campaigns to figure out. So we have that program, which is really more of a marketing piece around it, and much more of a brand play. And we were really excited to work with a lot of these companies, but we don't have a VC that is tied directly to our Arrow certification program, even though in our local branches they might be able to connect you with people in the area. Other questions? I'm jumping to my flash funding slide that you guys have already seen. You're going to pretend like you haven't seen it. Whoa! Pink again! But this is where I was just going to tell you about how we've already given away $1 million. And then this is the campaign WaterBot I was telling you about. It's actually this little device right here. It's just like a little square box. And this is another one that we went through and we did the prototypes very early on with them. These guys won flash funding from us. I want to say it was $50,000. And what they ended up doing is, this is an interesting story, and I think a lot of you guys know this. So have had a similar experience or know somebody who has. They actually started trying to build this product back in the late 80s. And they said, you know what would be great is if we had something that could just monitor this water quality for us, and it could just tell me somehow. And at the time, they just wanted a reader, but you could just stick it on to your home device or wherever, and see and have it spit out to you what's going on with your water. Well, it's taken them a long time to get this off the ground. They've done a lot of different things along the way, but this idea of just a handheld, easy water quality monitor has been years and years in the making. And Bob Richter's son, Chris Richter, really picked up a lot of the mantra. He picked up the cloak, he carried it on, and he wanted to see this actually developed. And we were actually able to finally get this into production. This is another one that we have in mass production now, which is exciting. But it all was from building those prototypes. We took them to CES. They had a booth at CES with us in January back in Las Vegas. And this is one that's really fun to watch because it's not just something that you use in your home. There's a big industrial play here, and it's interesting to think about where that data could go or what we could do from an IoT standpoint with these guys. So this one's one of my favorites. Another one of my favorites that won earlier this year is something called Anywhere. It's an adapter for any light bulb. You can stick it in a lamp like this. You can stick it in your home lamp. They have it for both European and for U.S. connections. But anyway, so you can plug it in, but it's not just smart lighting. What it does is it also has sensors, and it will, you can test like your climate sensor, temperature sensor, sound sensors. Some people use it as like kind of like a baby monitor, so you can hear the sounds in the room. And then they are also working with trying to use cognitive cloud to be able to detect which sounds require action. So if it's if it's something that sounds like the baby's crying, okay, maybe that requires action. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the air conditioner kicking in. That doesn't require action. And their big play probably will be to sell to insurance companies who want to make sure that you're using all that you can to make sure that you're monitoring and protecting your home. So this is an interesting one, and it's my last video. I know you guys are getting hot. I'm sorry. This is the last one.
Anywhere is the first product on the smart home journey. It's a small smart home system in one connected device that you install as easy as you feel like. Anywhere chose to raise money on Indiegogo because it's a very good way to meet customers and get the first feedback in the design process. And if you successfully raise money on Indiegogo as we did, then you also get some working capital to work. Anyway, join the Aero certification program and very closely with our local Aero team in Copenhagen, and we facilitate contacts to other Aero teams around the world. We have worked with a number of experts and consultants in Aero,
including industrial designers and engineers. They also introduced us to a number of potential manufacturing partners that could help us realize the products in a cost-efficient way.
To take this from concept to product.
The Aero team here in Nordic have been supporting and guiding the Anywhere team on everything from the hardware design, selecting the right components. One of the critical elements of a startup is the supply chain and being able to get the components that you need for your product.
The advantage of having the Aero services available globally for a startup like Anywhere Solutions is that we can access the expertise of Aero on a global scale.
Aero proactively keeps us up to date on the options that we have, and this is great for our future product development.
Aero will help us solve some challenges in terms of component design and sourcing of components. IoT is moving very fast, and it's difficult for a startup like us to keep up with the advancements in technology and components. So Aero has been a huge help in making sure that we stayed up to speed.
The Aero certification program has been a great way for us to get qualified sparring in an area that we're not experts in ourselves.
I would recommend any hardware startup to join the Aero certification program because of the access to the Aero expertise and the global network.
You can tell I didn't pay them to do it. You're like, okay, those aren't actors. Would have been a little different, would have been a little bit flashier. All right, so that is the program. That's Indiegogo. That's what I've had for you. But if you guys have questions or want to talk more, I'm happy to take them. Yes?
So the flash funding that comes from Aero, is that like a loan or a grant or?
It is a contest. It is free money, I'll say. So I was kind of explaining, but basically, once you are certified, if you are in North America, which everybody here is, you are in some of the select European countries, like these guys were in Denmark, that was eligible. If you're certified, you're in that geographic territory, and you have a live Indiegogo campaign. So that means you're either funding or you moved it into in-demand because you want to use it as your e-commerce platform. Those three things are required in order for you to be eligible to win. And then it's a voting process on innovation, marketability, and impact people's lives. But if I give those guys, I give them $100,000, and they're not required to spend that with us. It is their money. We put it through their campaign, so that means Indiegogo gets 5%. This is how it all works, in case you're wondering, behind the scenes. But this is that's their money to choose how they want to do it. Not a loan, not a grant. It's free money. Free as much as you can say free. Any other questions? Yeah.
If I would take a product to and exercise the Aero connection, and before I go into manufacturing, even in the prototype stage, the services that you provide, when I look at those, the boards, the components, etc., you do a risk analysis on that as far as provide me with a report that says, this component is good, but it's only going to last for X number of years, or it's already obsolete. I've seen designs in major corporations that go to market with an obsolete component. So I can't believe that risk is not...
Happens all the time. That's right. No, that's exactly what we do. That's one of the main advantages of being part of the program, is having somebody do a true BOM review for what you've selected. What's happening with those parts? What's on allocation? What's not? What is the lead times? And is it going to go end of life? And should we start thinking about what else we're going to use instead? So that's one of the key offerings, and that's one of the things that they talk about a lot, even in that video. He said, help us pick the right components, because they too had a product on there that was going to go EOL, and they had to change it before it actually launched into production. So, good question. Any other questions? Yeah?
What about if we don't have proper e-bomb? Like, I'm not sure about which components do I need to take, or what if I need guidance in that process?
That's awesome, and that's exactly what we'd love to help you with. So
Can you repeat the question?
So the question was, what if you don't have your full BOM? Like, what if you don't have your full E-BOM figured out? You don't know which components you want to put on your BOM. You know you're going to need something, but you don't know what it's going to be. That's exactly what these engineers do all day long, is talk to you about, okay, so let's think about what you should put in that. Here's a few we'd recommend. Why don't you take a look at these? Here's the references on your design specs. See if that matches what you're looking for. If it's not, come back to us and say, hey, no, actually I need this. And they can do that research for you on your behalf and give you another list of recommendations for your BOM. So that to get to the certified level, you have to have it, but we give a lot of people homework and tell them, go back and work on that. Not all 8,300 of those are certified. I only have about 400 and some odd certified, because there's still some work to do as you're working on building out your product. So good question. We'd love to do that. Pretty good at that. Anything else?
And is there any special perks for students?
We have a lot of students that go through the program, because a lot of times people have these senior projects that then they actually decide, hey, I really want to make this and get this off the ground. But it's the same program, same thing. I think we have a discount on arrow.com that's 20% off for students and teachers, always on the website. So if that's something that you're interested in.
Like, do I need to get enrolled into that program to take 20% off, or it's...
That is just through an educator's discount. Nope, so that you can just do that on arrow.com. This program you might as well sign up for. It's free. You might as well get connected and have access to those engineers to help you work through it. And then obviously we're not hitting you up for money until we want you to build your product. So
first you want to probably build a product using like a Arduino or some kind of product like that, and then you can take it to the product. Do that homework before you get there, right?
Ideally. A lot of people have, but we're okay if you're just the concept. Literally, we were talking to a gentleman earlier this week who had an idea to build an IoT scale. I was telling these guys, and he had no idea what actually goes in the scale, but he thinks it would be cool if every day his phone told him how old he was, how heavy he was. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but he had no idea, and so he hadn't even built a prototype. And we're going to help him get into that first proof of concept. Anything else? All right, I'll be here. I'll be here, yes. And I'll pass it over to Ed.
All right, let's give Rachel a hand. So we'd stay around, so you're welcome to come and visit.